Hi everyone, I'm Sam and welcome to the Shoogly Stitch. Hi everyone, as I said, I'm Sam and this is my podcast, The Shoogly Stitch, where I talk all things knitting, spinning, and fibercraft related. Just a short introduction. I am an American living in Scotland. I've been here for the past 6 years now, and I'm based in the central belt of Scotland, about halfway between Glasgow and Edinburgh. I have my dachshund on the couch here beside me, so if she pops up, that'll be what's going on there, but otherwise it should be pretty undisturbed today. It's been a little while since I recorded, which is what everyone says, but whatever. So today I have a few works in progress to share with you and plenty of spinning because it is now Tour de Fleece season. But I'll go about this kind of in the normal way, normal podcast format. If you want to find me elsewhere, you can find me on Instagram at The Shoogly Stitch, as well as on Ravelry at SNCase1. I'm not super detailed, but I do try to keep a record of what projects I'm working on, like when I've started them, and I'm certainly getting better about that in more recent times because I've found how useful it is. So without further ado, let's get on to the actual projects. Now, even though it has been a little while since I recorded, I actually don't have any finished objects that I could share with you. I have finished one thing. It's a hat. It's a preview knit for Ysolda. I've done a few of her test knits, preview knits before, but I can't actually share the project until the pattern is released. But I can show you the color. And I shared a little bit about this on the previous episode, so I'll see if I can like fold it so you can only see like the color part or the like stockinette part. So you can only see, yeah, like the stockinette part. So here's a little bit of the brim. Hopefully that doesn't give too much away. And it's this really fun chartreuse color, and that is actually made with 2 different yarns. So it is a combination of an old Maiden Aunt merino singles, as well as, for the love of yarn, merino yak silk, I believe. And they're both kind of this really fun, grungy, yellowy green color, and they just combine perfectly. So that is my one and only FO, unfortunately. And I'm looking forward to being able to share a little bit more about that when the pattern is released, because it is a really kind of interesting textured hat, and I'm quite happy with the finished result. All right, so I guess that means we'll just move straight on to works in progress. I have, as always, tons of works in progress, but I'm only going to mention the ones that I've actually been working on within the past month or so since I recorded. And one that I've made a lot of progress on that you actually haven't seen before is this. This is the April cardigan by Petite Knit. As you can see, I'm onto the sleeves now. This is a cropped cardigan. I'm knitting it in Durum Natura Ulysse. So that is, I think, their sport weight version. It's 100% wool. It is, I wouldn't say like super silky soft, but it's definitely not itchy at all. It's not toothy or kind of a crunchy yarn. It's definitely next to skin soft, but it's not kind of that like silky, super smooth, soft that like a superwash is, because this isn't superwash. It's just normal. And I've also heard some people describe it as kind of dry, which I think is a really interesting and kind of accurate descriptor. But it's a really great yarn. I've used the thicker version for a different cardigan that I wear fairly often. It is the Serrano, I believe, is that one, and I actually did it in the same color. So that is part of what informed this decision. So the reason that I chose to do the April cardigan is partly having seen my friend Venicia's version, and partly because I've been wanting a cropped cardigan for a while. I have several dresses in my wardrobe. I'm wearing one today, and I find myself wishing that I had like a cardigan that kind of hit at my waist or just below my waist rather than being quite so long, because most of my other cardigans are kind of down to about my hip. And I think with a dress, a cropped cardigan looks really nice. And then having gone and looked at a lot of the projects that, like a lot of the other versions that other people have done of the April cardigan, that kind of cemented my decision. So I am so far knitting this exactly to pattern. It was it's a pretty interesting construction that I haven't done anything exactly like before. So you do start with the back, and you work this really interesting shoulder construction. And I'm not going to go into like too much detail on that, but you can just see the you can see the lines here, like how the increases work and how it expands out from the shoulder. So this is expanding out there to the sleeve, and then on the front and the back. So the front kind of gets built up over time. I don't feel like I'm explaining this right, but I think a lot of people have talked about this, so I'm not too worried. You can go double check if you're a bit confused. But yeah, so it's not quite a raglan. I guess you would probably call it a little bit of a saddle shoulder, and then it goes into more raglan shaping at the very end. So yeah, it's just quite an interesting, slightly different type of construction than what I've worked with before. It is top down, so you do a lot of the, I guess, interesting stuff, or the stuff where you have to pay more attention first, and then once you've divided for the sleeves, it's knit straight stockinette until you get to the ribbing. Now, the ribbing in the pattern is meant to be 4 inches long, and I actually did shorten it to 3 inches because I just thought it looked kind of excessively long, and I decided after trying it on that it was at a place, like it hit me at a place that I was happy with, because I did want it to be that cropped length. So I'll try it on real quick and show you where it's at right now. Apologies for the clicking needles. And I'm wearing like this dress has long sleeves, so maybe isn't the best perspective of things. And I'll put in another picture of what this is looking like. If I stand up, you can kind of see where it hits me. So my waist is about here, so the ribbing starts probably right around where my natural waist is. And obviously I'm still gonna need to do the button band, so I think it should be like enough ease. It's not particularly oversized, but I think it will be like just about right, because I didn't want it to be hugely sloppy or anything. So that is the April cardigan. As far as the nitty-gritty details, like I said, I'm knitting it exactly to pattern for right now. So I'm using size 6 needles, whatever that is in metric, for the body, and size 4 for the ribbing. I did a tubular bind off, which you can see the edging there. I think it went pretty well, and I think it'll look just even that bit nicer. Well, I suppose it's not technically tubular because I didn't do the 2 rows of double knitting. I just like did the sewn bind off. So I guess it's a sewn bind off, not a tubular. But I really don't find that it makes much difference, and it's a lot less fiddly than doing a proper tubular bind off. The one modification, aside from shortening the rib just a tiny bit, that I'm thinking of doing is changing the way that I do the button band. And that's because I don't hugely like when button bands are kind of picked up and knit perpendicular to the direction of the rest of the knitting. I think it looks a lot more clean if the knitting all goes in the same direction, and a lot more, a lot less handmade. and not that there's anything wrong with it being handmade, but I do think it just looks a bit more polished if it's kind of got that finish, like you might see on commercial garments. So I haven't decided. I might either do a 1x1 ribbed button band, which I've done before on my Warty cardigan, or I might try a double knit button band. The one thing is that I haven't actually done that before, and I might need to go kind of look at a pattern to do that. So I'm kind of leaning towards the 1x1 knit just because I know it works. I know it's pretty easy. You do have to sew it on obviously after the fact, but it's really not the end of the world. It would just be a matter of figuring out the math to know exactly where I want my buttonholes and deciding how wide to make it. But again, that should all be pretty straightforward. So that is my April cardigan. The one thing I'll say as well is that I am noticing a bit of rowing out, and that's because, like a lot of people, my pearl rows tend to be a bit looser, and I think it's particularly noticeable if you look on the sleeves, and especially if you look at the transition from where I was knitting flat, so like here to where I'm now knitting in the round. There is a little bit of a noticeable line. However, I do think that'll come out in the blocking, but it's something I kind of want to work on and see if I can. I mean, I've been knitting for this long, I don't know, 10 plus years, and I'm still having occasional problems with that. And I know some yarns show it more than others, but I would like to kind of work on seeing if I can improve my tension and avoid that problem in the future. So yeah, that has been the project that I've probably been focusing on the most, just because I'm actually really wanting the final product and I'm quite excited to wear it. I have one other cast on to show you since the last time we spoke, and this was quite a random decision. It's not a pattern that I've ever really particularly thought I would do before. It's really, I don't want to say overhyped, but tons of people have knit this and I've never completely seen the appeal. But lately I've seen a few versions of this that have made me stop and take a second look and think about, would I like to give that a try? And it's of course the Ranunculus. So like I said, obviously everyone has done this. I'm working on this in a fingering weight yarn, and this is For the Love of Yarn merino yak silk again, so it's the same as part of the hat that I made, and it's in this lovely olive green. And I picked this up at the Glasgow School of Yarn, I think 2 years ago. I think it was 2021 that I went to that. This is really lovely. It's quite soft. It's just a little bit shiny from the silk. My original intention was to make socks with it because I asked, and it specifically is a sock yarn. So the dyer said that the silk would make it strong enough to use for socks. However, when I kind of got this idea in my head to do the Ranunculus, I had a good look through my stash to see what I had, and this one stood out because it's a nice solid or semi-solid tonal yarn. It is nice and soft as well. Yeah, those are the main two reasons. It's a color like that I would like to have a full sweater of. It's a lovely kind of greeny color, and I really like greens and blues for myself. So that was some of the reasoning behind choosing this yarn. Now, obviously, maybe not obviously, the Ranunculus is written for, the designer says, any weight of yarn. However, you're still meant to use the same needle size, and it's written to be quite an oversized fit. So obviously, if you're using the same needle size from like a lace all the way up to a worsted weight, you're going to have a drastically different density of fabric. The gauge, I think, is meant to be about 14 stitches per 4 inches. I didn't quite get that. I would have to remeasure and see where I was at, but I think I was closer to 16. However, the design, the fit as written has something like 10 centimeters. No, I think it's more than that. A significant amount of positive ease, which I also knew was something that I wasn't particularly interested in. So I did the math with my gauge swatch and with the sizes and chose one that would give me just a little bit of positive ease but would fit a lot closer than the original design. And so this is what it's looking like so far. It's obviously all crumpled up on my needles. It's just about to the size where it's like too big to stretch out all the way on the needles. And I'm actually using size 9 needles, so hopefully you can see, like, it's obviously quite see-through, and there's this textured bit here, but even the stockinette bit, this is the short rows at the back, is fairly translucent. So yes, I am using a fingering weight yarn, and I'm using size 9 needles rather than size 10 needles. And I think that's size 5.5 mil rather than 6, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's giving me quite a loose gauge. I'm not 100% certain that I love it yet, but also what I've got here so far hasn't actually taken me that much time. So I'm basically going with, I'm gonna keep going, get the yoke done, get down. So I'm going to probably work it to the sleeves and then try it on and see what I'm thinking. So far it's been fun. I like how quickly it's working up. I do think I'll definitely have to wear something under it because it is such a loose gauge, but that's all right. Yeah, so we'll just kind of see what it's like, and you know, it's only yarn, and if I don't like it, I can rip it out and reuse it. So that's been the second cast on that I've been working on lately. All right, so next up I have a shawl that I've been working on for a little while, and I'm making progress. I'm getting there slowly but surely. It had been on hold for a little bit because I needed to spin more of this gray yarn. So this is hand spun. This is BFL combined with some other things to make it gray because it started out white. It's nice and soft. Not too much to say about it. It's a little bit textured. The fiber itself was a little bit nappy, so I just kind of embraced it. And that goes with the kind of vibe of this yarn that is also hand spun, which was from an art Batt. So yeah, that's fine. This is the Cinnabar Shawl, and it's on a needle that's not really long enough to let me stretch it out and show off the whole thing, plus I'm in the middle of the row. But it is 2-color brioche on one side and garter stitch on the other side. So it's lots of fun. I don't know how much I'll wear it, but I'm really enjoying making it, and it was a fun way to use up kind of a big amount that I had left of this blue. So I don't know, I don't think I really have tons to say about that. It's kind of been on hold because I do enjoy knitting it, and brioche is just about, it's like this project in general is just about my perfect like kind of TV knitting, because 2-color brioche looks tricky, but it's not actually that hard once you get in the flow of it. And it's not quite as boring as just knitting a big chunk of stockinette. So yeah, I really like it for those reasons. Yeah, I don't know that there's too much to say on that. It's been on hold because aside from needing to spin the gray yarn, which I needed to clear my bobbins off in order to do that, I have been wanting to focus on the April cardigan more because I actually really want to wear the end product and think it'll be like more useful. Like I could see myself wearing that cardigan a lot. So that is part of the reason that this has been on hold, but hopefully I can get it done maybe in the next, I don't know, if I speak to you in a month, maybe I'll have it done by then. We'll see. We'll see what how holidays affect that and all that. But yeah, that is the Cinnabar Shawl. Okay, next up I have the Longfellow Cardigan. And here is where I'm at. So I have a big rectangular panel. And this is a cardigan that is knit flat and seamed. So, and I'm working on it for my partner. I do want to make sure that it's the proper like width. So I'm probably gonna go lay it flat next to one of his existing cardigans, because when I hold it up, it looks kind of small, but I did measure my gauge and like chose the size based on the measurements of cardigans that he already has. So I think it should be okay, but it's just looking at it, it's like, is that quite right? This has been really good for kind of traveling about knitting because it is such a big chunk of stockinette. It just means that I didn't need to look at the pattern or anything. I just knew I needed to knit until it was, I think, about 16 inches long. And then you start doing shaping for the shoulders. So I need to measure it and see if I've hit 16 inches. But yeah, that is where I'm at for this. This is knit in woolly knit 4-ply merino. It's really nice and soft, and as far as like quality for money, I'd say it's really good value. A nice soft yarn and not overly expensive since I bought it on a cone and then wound some off. And the color is also really nice. I think it's called Tierra Beige Nep, so it's this kind of oatmeal tweedy color. It's actually made of, it's got two plies of 2 different colors, so that's what's giving it that tweedy effect, along with actual like neps, tweed neps in there. Okay, last but certainly not least, and probably the reason that I don't make progress on anything else more quickly, is the Gibbie cardigan. The Gibbie Shawl. And this is an ongoing project that I'm working on for my sister-in-law. And it is for her wedding. Or to be done in time for her wedding. I don't know like if she's actually gonna wear it much. She might get some pictures in it. But when I offered to make it for her, I said that some people like use this type of thing for also for a baby's christening, and I think she really liked the idea of having something at her wedding where that she would also then use at the christening of whenever she eventually does have a kid. Yeah, she really liked that. So I think it was maybe that kind of drew her towards it more. But anyways, this is where I'm at. So I'll hold it there and hopefully you can see the pattern. Yeah, so there's the pattern. It's definitely developing. It's kind of, I'm working on these kind of chevrons right now. And then after that, there'll be more of, I don't know, this kind of, it's more of this design here. In the, like below the chevrons, this whole situation. I don't know what you call it. But anyways. I've been trying to roughly do 2 rows a day, which means 1 row of patterning and then just a purl row. So that's not too bad, but it is a little bit time consuming. I'd say it probably takes at least 45 minutes to get through those 2 rows. Although obviously each 2 rows is getting smaller because you do decrease in the corners each time. So it is getting moderately quicker, and it's fun to see it grow. I mean, I wouldn't say like I love the process of it, but I think it's one of these things that's going to be really cool to say like, wow, I can't believe I made that. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. I'm currently working from a big lace cone. This is Jamieson and Smith, or Jamieson's of Shetland. Jamieson and Smith, I think. I can never remember which one is which. This is their Cobweb lace. And it's a single ply. So yeah. I think this will last me forever. And that's kind of the update there. It's not particularly exciting. It's just kind of going along and I'm chipping away at it. Definitely a long-term project. But that certainly affects the amount of work that it gets done on anything else that I might want in it. It's interesting because the fabric is quite, like, there's quite a lot of it. You wouldn't think that thin cobweb lacy fabric could end up being quite so squishy and big, but I guess when you're making that much, like that big of a square, there's quite a bit of fabric there. So yeah, it's working out. So that is all of my knitting works in progress, or certainly all the ones that I've been actually working on lately. There's plenty of other works in progress, but we won't talk about those. So I'm gonna move on to spinning now. So the first exciting thing to talk about with spinning is that my yarn won a prize. How exciting. So I showed this yarn last time, I'm pretty sure, and I called it my like ketchup and mustard yarn. It's this orange and red and yellow spiral ply yarn, which means there's 1 thick ply and 1 really thin ply. And I made this because I wanted to enter something in the Royal Highland Show, which is like kind of a big, I've been calling it like an equivalent to like a state fair, and from everything I've seen like on social media, I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but everything I've seen online and yeah, on social media about it, I think that kind of comparison is fairly accurate. There's a lot of agricultural bits, but there's and like people showing their animals, but there's also kind of food vendors and different kinds of vendors for all different kinds of things, and there's like a handicrafts exhibition entry and other different kind of things that you can enter and win prizes for. And so I won a first prize and the Mabel Ross Memorial Prize, which was for the best example of a fancy spun art yarn, which was the category that I had spun this to enter. I'm not sure if there was anyone else who'd entered this category, but I'm gonna take it. Like I said, I wasn't actually able to attend to see like what my competition was or like how many people had entered each category. So yeah, I don't know if I was up against other people, but you know what, I'll take it. This is my first time trying to spin an art yarn, so for that I'm really happy. And they objectively do give you the scorecard attached. So I got 19 out of 20 points on it for the yarn and presentation and whatnot. For design and use of color, suitability of materials, workmanship techniques, finish and presentation, and degree of difficulty. There's different amounts for each of those categories, and like I said, I got 19 out of 20. So even if I wasn't up against anyone else, which who knows, I still got 19 out of 20, which is really quite exciting for someone who's been spinning only, you know, about a year. Yeah, so that was exciting news. Let's see, other things that I have been working on spinning, or other like fiber prep. I made some sock yarn for my friend Venetia. Unfortunately, I gave it to her without taking a picture, but she's gonna send me a picture. So I don't have it here to show, but I will show some pictures of it in progress and on like a finished object as well. So what I did for that is I have a bunch of kind of scrap yarn, or you can actually buy what they call mill ends from a few different suppliers here. So from World of Wool, I bought a box of mill ends, and it is just like when they are finished with a run of a particular color or transitioning to a different color, they might just have some scrap parts. So it's it can be a variety of quantities and lots of different colors. So I had that, and I had some other colors that I'd kind of picked up here and there. And I wanted to play around with spinning some sock yarn, or well, with blending my own bats to make sock yarn. So I also bought some just natural colored BFL, because I know that's a common fiber that's used in sock yarn. And I bought some nylon, bio nylon, I think they call it. So I think that means it will biodegrade eventually. But this was my first experiment with it. In future, I do also want to try using some mohair, because I know that's something that people are trying instead of nylon, because they don't want to particularly have plastic in their socks, which is fair enough. But yeah, for this first experiment, I just did it with like a 75-25 nylon, wool nylon blend. So what I did is I started out with the white yarn and the white nylon, or the white fiber and the white nylon, and I blended it together on my drum carder. And then after that, I added in these hits of blues and a little bit of greens here and there, and I kind of just tried to space them out so it wasn't all blended together into one color, but you would get different chunks of color in different parts of the bat. And I've actually done something similar here with a different color. So with this one, my original base color was this burgundy and the white nylon as well. So that's why you can see the burgundy and then kind of white streaks through it. And then I've blended different colors in at different points to this bat as well. So I had like a scrappy Tweedy one here, and then this bright pink here, and then like a sparkly pink here. So you can kind of see it under the layers of the bat, or hopefully you can. So that means that when I like take this to spin, what I did for the ones that I made Venetia was I was just pulling off a whole chunk off the end of the bat, because it's like quite a fairly skinny bat. It's not particularly wide. And then I was spinning from the fold. So that just means taking, like, imagine this is a lot shorter. I've pulled the chunk off, and then you take it and put it over your finger like this, and then spin from the fold like that. And what that does is it can allow you to keep your colors together a little bit more, instead of spinning from the tip. Tends to blend your colors together. I mean, I could go more in depth into that, but I feel like it might bore a few people. And it'd be a lot easier to show if I was actually spinning right now, which I'm not going to. So, but yeah, this is, so that is another finished object, I suppose, that I've had and gave away already. And this will be another similar project. So yes, I guess that's 2 projects in one. This is the next kind of batch of sock yarn. I made hers with a 3-ply. I think I'm only gonna make this a 2-ply, just because spinning 3-ply sock yarn takes forever. The other thing I've been working on, again, with some of those mill ends and then with some alpaca that I've had. So part of what was included in the mill ends was a blend that I think probably wasn't selling particularly well. So it was a Shetland and Tussa silk blend, and it was this dark brown natural silk, dark brown natural Shetland wool and a much paler, like kind of white tussa silk. So you can imagine it's quite kind of, the contrast between the two is quite significant. I have still the never-ending alpaca fleece that I brought back last year, and it's also a natural brown. And my mom was the one who got the fleece for me. It was a birthday present, actually. She paid for it. So I really want to make her something. So what I've decided to do is make her probably a cowl. And this is the first ply for that yarn. So what I did is I took the mill end that was the Shetland and the tussa silk, and it was quite a big amount. And then I've blended it with alpaca, and then I've also added in some subtle bits of purple here to kind of get a kind of Tweedy effect. So hopefully you can see that coming through. And then you'll also see how like kind of the pale bits here, that is from the silk. So it's really nice and soft between the silk and the alpaca. And then you've obviously got the wool in there, but Shetland wool isn't particularly itchy in my experience. And if I hold it up to my neck, no, it's not itchy at all. So that is the current plan. I'm really excited to see it come together. So I need to spin the next ply for this. So that is another TDF goal. It won't take that long, I don't think. But I wanted to film a little bit of it, so I've been holding off on part of that. So, but that is another spinning project that's been ongoing. Let's see, I think the last actual spinning that I'm going to show you is from some fibre that I picked up at the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase. And I would have showed this at the time. But this is fibre from Lunan Bay farm, and they have cashmere goats as well as some other animals, but what they were at the showcase for was their cashmere goats. And this is a 90-10 blend of Mowry Shetland wool as well as 10% cashmere. And the cashmere is these like kind of white fluffy bits that you can see highlighted in some parts. It's definitely a different texture, and it's not 100% blended through, so you can kind of see it poking out there in some bits. And I am spinning that roughly to, I think, a DK-ish weight. Here's my control card, so hopefully it'll start looking something like that. You can see I've got a few single plies here and a ply back sample here as well. And I'm spinning a woolen spun, which I'm really enjoying that style. Again, it's faster, but it feels like it's easier on my hands as well, because I find myself pinching, maybe harder than I should be, but you do kind of have to pinch when you're doing the short forward draft. So I'm really enjoying doing more of a long draw woolen spun style spinning, and it's been a bit supported long draw, so you're kind of stretching back with the one hand and then letting twists travel up with the other hand. And I'll pop a little bit of a video in here to show what I mean. So that is what I've been working on lately, and this is what that ply looks like so far. So it's a really lovely natural kind of fawn color. As I said, they call it Mowry in like the Shetland color, word for that color. There's a lot of different Shetland terms for particular colors of wool. So that is what is going on here. And this actually is spun up really quickly. I should have the second ply hopefully finished today. And then, yeah, I'll get it plied maybe tomorrow. So that is the last proper spinning project that I've got going. The other exciting thing that I've done is I've finished processing this Hampshire Down crossed with a Polwarth Romney fleece. And this was from Raw. And so I washed it and carded it into bats. And now I've got this whole bag of little batlings, because my drum carder isn't that big. So they come off in like maybe 30-gram bats. I haven't actually spun any of it yet, so I would love to start sampling and see what this wants to be, but it's lovely and fluffy and processed up pretty smoothly. Like there's really not many neps in here at all. You can still see maybe a little bit of VM, but I think as I'm spinning that'll all come out, and it's just lovely and soft. I have about 250 grams, so it's not enough for like a sweater or anything like that. So I haven't really decided what this will be. Certainly there's potential to use it like with color work in some way, to combine it with another color and go that route. I do love the idea of another fully hand spun jumper, and especially fully hand spun from fleece that I processed from raw is like a brilliant idea. So that is exciting, and especially exciting because it's processed so nicely. Now, something else that I've been playing around with processing that isn't as great yet is this, which is a BFL. So I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but it's definitely not as smooth. Part of that is it was a much dirtier fleece. The tips were pretty dirty in some parts of it. It's also very long stapled. I'll see if I can get a picture because I didn't bring any down with me, but the staples are easily like 5 to 6 inches in some parts, which is not exactly conducive to being run through a drum carder, or certainly not through my little drum carder. And I think it would be a lot more appropriate to comb these. Which is not to say this prep like works. It is spinnable, but it's not the most smooth end result. And if I'm gonna put all this time into it, I would like for it to be nice and smooth and like just something I'm really properly happy with. I have spun a sample from this Batt because I just wanted to see how it would go. I would say it's okay. I maybe didn't do the best job spinning it, to be fair. I don't know, it just feels really, it seems quite textured, I think. So, yes. I guess what information this is giving me is that I'm not completely happy with where I'm at so far. I want, like, some parts of it are really nice, like that. That's a nice, like, strand. But then some parts are, like, there's clearly a big nep there. So, it shows me that it can be a really nice yarn, but I would like to prep it in a way that's going to give me the best result. So I think I might either buy wool combs, which aren't the cheapest. They can be from 100 to 200 pounds, I believe, at least the ones that I've found. Or I might ask for them for my birthday, which is coming up in August. So we shall see. I guess there's not really any rush with this, but I don't know. I just like to be able to keep working on it. So we'll see where we go with this. But that's the BFL. That is TBD what to do with that. So that is all of the spinning and fleece processing. Now, acquisitions. I don't normally have tons of acquisitions, but since I last talked to you all, I have been to the Tangled Yarn Festival, I think they're calling it, in Galashiels, which was the first time they held it. Galashiels is a town, I think it's about an hour and a half drive south. It's in the borders. A really lovely setting, kind of nice hilly scenery to get there. I took the train down with a friend, and it was really nice actually because I ended up meeting a lot of different people like on the train, and then once I was there, seeing people that I knew. And for someone that, you know, I'm an immigrant here, I don't necessarily have the same like chances of just running into someone that I randomly know in town as I might back in my hometown, where obviously you grow up, you kind of know a lot of people. So going somewhere and like actually just casually running into people that you know is like quite a nice feeling. And part of that is because I've joined a spinning guild. There's just more people that I know now that are into these things, but then there's also people that I've met through I guess basically just doing this and then making friends kind of through this and through putting myself out there a little bit more. So there's a few familiar faces. So that was really nice. There were a lot of lovely things there. It was a very interesting, thoughtful setup. I liked that they were very careful about how they chose vendors. It seemed like they tried not to put too many of any one type of product there, so there wasn't tons and tons of competition. It wasn't a huge venue by any means, but it was definitely big enough, and it was worth the day out. It was really nice. They also had a small bit in another section that had the local Spinners Guild had a setup, like a demonstration going on. And they also had a small exhibition from the Harriet Watt Textile Design University. I can't remember what the program is called exactly, but it's definitely the Harriet Watt School, which is based there as well. And I only picked up one thing, and it was from a Scottish dyer, which I hadn't actually heard of before, but I just kept coming back to her stall. So this is from Black Isle Yarns, and it is a BFL mohair blend. 80% BFL and 20% mohair. And she is based up in the Black Isle, which is, I think, north of Inverness, if I'm remembering correctly. It's definitely up in the Highlands. And she does all of her dyeing with botanical dyes, like natural dyes. So this color is called Culloden, which is an area up north. There was a famous battle there. Yeah. Most of her yarns have what she used to dye them written on the back. This one doesn't, just because she said she forgot to put it on there, and she did tell me it when I bought it, but I've since forgotten because it's not the type of thing I would remember. But it's really interesting to know that she can get really these lovely colors with just natural dyes. So yes, I kept coming back to her booth, and I kept being really attracted by this lovely yarn. So that will become socks at some point. I know more sock yarn, but at least it's a sock yarn that's a little bit different, and that was my main motivation for buying it, is that it was this nylon-free yarn that I've never tried anything like that, so I'm really curious to see how it kind of compares to your typical 80-20 wool nylon blends. Okay, let's see. I think that is actually pretty much it. I'll add a little mention on a personal note. I got engaged 3 weeks ago, so that's exciting. And otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. It's been really fun to catch up with you all. I'd love to hear what you're working on, or if you have any experience with any of these nylon-free sock yarns, that would be particularly interesting. But otherwise, yeah, let me know what you're thinking, if you're working on anything similar. If you've got any fun kind of spinning experience, or if you've got any TDF Tour de Fleece plans. I don't have any concrete plans, but I'm trying to just do a little bit of spinning a day and yeah, see where that takes me. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could give me a like and a subscribe, maybe share with someone else who you also think would enjoy this video. Loves to, discuss spinning, knitting, various fiber ramblings. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!